Hopefully, China can help us stop the war with, in particular, Russia, Ukraine. They have a great deal of power over that situation.
Ukraine's recent move has shocked everyone, even catching the U.S. by surprise. While Russia once clung to hopes of gaining vital material income from Ukraine's rich resources, Kyiv has taken a stand. Now Ukraine has cut off access to these key assets, sending tides through the global resource market. This decision could change the course of the war and reshape economic power. Today we will discuss what this means for both sides and the world at large. Let's decode the secrets behind Ukraine's shocking decision, the high stakes of the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Ukraine's war has been a long and hard fight. The country has stood strong against a much larger enemy. Ukrainian forces have resisted with grit and determination. Their daily struggle shows a nation fighting for freedom and survival. The conflict has brought hardship and loss, yet Ukraine continues its brave resistance. On the other hand, Russia had a plan. Russian leaders saw Ukraine as a key to wealth. They hoped to tap into Ukraine's vast natural and industrial resources. For Russia, these resources were like a hidden treasure chest. Ukraine holds rich deposits of rare earth elements, lithium, uranium, and other important minerals. These materials are very valuable. They are used in high-tech gadgets, electric vehicles, and advanced weapons. Russia believed that by taking control of these resources, it could earn extra money to fund its war efforts. Russian officials expected to earn billions from these assets. They saw the income as a way to buy more weapons and support their military. Many in Moscow put all their hopes on Ukraine's natural wealth. They thought that steady revenue from these resources would help keep their forces supplied. The plan was simple. More money would mean a longer and stronger fight. These resources act like a hidden vault of wealth for any nation that controls them. For Russia, tapping into Ukraine's minerals was seen as a way to boost its war chest. With more funds, Russia could invest in better weapons and strengthen its military. This plan would have given Moscow extra money to keep its forces supplied. Experts have warned that without access to these rare materials, Russia's efforts on the battlefield would face serious limits. Controlling these assets could change global trade and shift power in the region. The stakes were high, and Russia bet heavily on these natural riches. These resources act like a hidden vault of wealth for any nation that controls them. For Russia, tapping into Ukraine's minerals was seen as a way to boost its war chest. With more funds, Russia could invest in better weapons and strengthen its military. This plan would have given Moscow extra money to keep its forces supplied. Experts have warned that without access to these rare materials, Russia's efforts on the battlefield would face serious limits. Controlling these assets could change global trade and shift power in the region. The stakes were high, and Russia bet heavily on these natural riches. These impressive numbers raise questions about Russia's resource plans. What drove Moscow to count on Ukraine's natural wealth, and why did they bet so much on it? Let's check the real reasons behind their hopes. Ukraine's bold move shutting down the material income. Ukraine has taken a strong step that many did not expect. Ukrainian leaders have closed key mines and halted exports of critical materials. They have also tightened control over supply chains. This move stops Russia from using Ukraine's rich resources for profit. Ukrainian officials say the decision is meant to protect their nation and hurt Russia's war effort. Reports show that Ukraine has shut down several important mining sites. In some cases, exports of rare earths and other minerals have been paused. This action blocks the flow of resources that Russia hoped to capture. Ukrainian authorities claim that this decision will weaken Russia's ability to fund its military. The materials in question include lithium, titanium, and uranium. These resources are very valuable for making high-tech goods and advanced weapons. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky spoke on national television. He said, "We will not allow our resources to be used against us." His words send a clear message. Local officials have repeated that keeping these materials out of enemy hands is crucial. They say this step will hurt Russia's war plans and force Moscow to search for other income. The move has a direct impact on Russia. Losing access to these resources means fewer funds for its military. Russia had planned to use the money from these assets to buy weapons and support its troops. Now Russian planners must rethink their strategy. Analysts believe this decision will put a strain on Russia's economy and lower its war spending. In some markets, prices for these materials have already dropped as buyers look for alternatives. Ukrainian military experts point to detailed plans that have been kept secret until now. Reports say that several large mines have been temporarily closed. Ukrainian forces have also seized key transport routes that previously allowed Russian troops to move these resources. The move is a clear signal to Moscow that Ukraine will not let its natural wealth be used for the war. Local journalists report that many communities are now under strict control to stop any exports. This decisive step has forced Russia to cut back on its long-term budget for the war. It also leaves Russian commanders without the extra funds they expected to buy better weapons and supplies. Experts say that Russia now faces a hard choice: find another source of income or face further setbacks on the battlefield. The loss of this resource income changes the balance of power in the conflict. Some Western leaders have praised Ukraine's decision. They call it a strong stand that shows Ukraine's resolve. The reaction from Moscow has been mixed, with many Russian officials now scrambling to adjust their plans. This move may well mark a turning point, forcing Moscow to rethink its entire resource strategy. With Ukraine closing off key resource channels, what will be the immediate fallout for Russia's war funds? How will Moscow respond when its income stream dries up? Time to examine the impact of this decisive move. The surprise factor: even the US didn't expect this. News of Ukraine's move took the world by surprise. US officials and global leaders did not see it coming. Many in Washington expressed shock when they heard Ukraine had shut off access to its valuable materials. This decision was unexpected and left many experts talking. It changed the usual script. The move has set off debates in political and economic circles. U.S. media reported the news in clear terms. One major news channel called the decision a real game changer. Several economic experts said Ukraine's action disrupts Russia's long-term plans for resource income. U.S. lawmakers and energy analysts have voiced their surprise. They noted that this step might force the U.S. to rethink its resource strategies. The shutdown has caught both allies and adversaries off guard. Some U.S. officials were quick to comment. A senior energy advisor remarked, "This is not something we predicted." Another top senator said the move will force a review of global resource policies. Their words show that Ukraine's action has made a strong impact. Even friends of the U.S. found themselves surprised by the speed and firmness of Ukraine's decision. Analysts also noted a gap between what was expected and what happened. Many assumed Ukraine would focus solely on defending its land. Few saw a clear plan to stop resource exports. The shutdown came suddenly, leaving many puzzled. Comments from experts pointed to this step as a challenge to Russia's hopes for funding its war. This decision limits the funds that Russia could have used for military efforts. Global players in Europe and Asia were also caught by surprise. Several news reports said that many in these regions did not expect Ukraine to act so quickly. The decision is seen as a major shift in how resources are managed during the conflict. Some experts warn that this could change the balance of power in the region. Others see it as a smart move by Ukraine to protect its future. Analysts compared expectations with reality. They noted that Russia had built its plans around getting these resources. With Ukraine shutting down access, Russia now faces a hard choice. The loss of potential revenue has raised concerns. Experts say that Russia will need to find other ways to fund its war effort. The news has sent ripples through global markets. Officials in Washington expressed their surprise. One energy minister remarked that this was not on anyone's radar. A top senator noted that the decision has forced the U.S. to rethink its resource strategies. Many believe that this action could lead to a shift in the global resource game. The unexpected step has stirred discussions among leaders and economists around the world. Global leaders and U.S. officials are rethinking their strategies after this unexpected decision. Why did the U.S. get so surprised by Ukraine's action, and what does it mean for plans? Let's see how the world reacts. Economic and geopolitical implications. Ukraine's shutdown of its critical resource exports is shaking global markets. Countries that once relied on a steady supply now face sudden gaps. Key materials like rare earth elements, lithium, and other minerals are in short supply. Traders and manufacturers are forced to look for new sources. This disruption is like a sudden break in a long line of goods. Supply chains that work smoothly now must adapt to a new reality. Prices for these materials are starting to change. Recent reports show that the cost of some key minerals has gone up. Buyers pay more as sellers in other regions step in to fill the gap. Nations such as China and India are keeping a close eye on the situation. They are ready to adjust their contracts and stockpiles. This shift can affect a wide range of industries, from electronics to renewable energy production. When prices change, every link in the chain feels the impact. The economic effects extend beyond simple price shifts. Global trade patterns are also in flux. Companies that depend on these raw materials must now find alternatives. This is much like a sudden change during a high-stakes negotiation where one party must quickly seek a new deal. Established trade routes are under pressure and new agreements are being discussed. As nations scramble to secure their supplies, the overall balance of global trade may change. This change could alter the flow of goods between continents and affect markets around the world. On the geopolitical side, Ukraine's move sends a clear message. Countries that have long depended on Russian-controlled resources now see a chance to shift alliances. European nations in particular are likely to seek new partnerships. They may turn to countries with untapped resources or more stable supply lines. This shift in trade can lead to a reordering of power in the region. Russia loses a key source of income, which could weaken its ability to fund further military efforts. With less money from resource exports, Moscow may struggle to maintain its previous level of influence. Some U.S. officials have noted that the decision has far-reaching effects. They mentioned that the change in resource flows might lead to new trade deals. The U.S. and its allies might work together to secure alternative sources of these materials. This would help reduce dependence on unstable supply lines. The new setup may force countries to re-examine old contracts and strike fresh bargains. In effect, the decision could shift the balance of power in global trade. Economic pressure and changing alliances may combine to alter the current order. Global markets and political alliances are in for a shakeup. How will these economic shifts and new trade flows affect everyday life and power balances? The insights will surprise you. New insights and future scenarios. Recent industry reports highlight new trends that could change the face of the conflict. A recent study shows that digital tools and real-time data systems are now used to monitor oil production and quality. These sensors help companies fix issues quickly and lower overall costs. Such improvements may one day change how resources are managed in war-affected areas. Experts say that if Russia loses access to Ukraine's natural wealth, its economy will take a heavy hit. Without the income from these valuable minerals, Moscow may find it harder to fund its military operations. Economic analysts warn that a drop in resource revenue could force Russia to cut spending. This loss could weaken its position both on the battlefield and in global trade. Some estimates suggest that the income loss may reach billions of dollars over the next few years. Ukraine is taking strong steps to protect its resources. Ukrainian officials have closed key mines and halted exports of critical materials. They are also strengthening supply chains to keep these assets safe. In addition, Ukraine is seeking partnerships with European countries and NATO allies to build a stronger resource strategy. These new deals could lead to joint projects and better trade terms. Such cooperation would help ensure that Ukraine's minerals are used for national growth and defense rather than funding a war. Around the world, the shift toward clean energy is growing stronger. Many countries are increasing investments in wind, solar, and other renewable sources. As these clean energy technologies become more affordable, the need for traditional minerals may decline. This trend might lower the demand for materials that Russia once hoped to control. At the same time, nations with reliable resource supplies could gain new markets and stronger economic ties. These economic shifts may lead to a more balanced energy mix in the coming years. Technological progress is also reshaping the resource game. New digital systems and automation make the extraction and processing of resources more efficient. These tools help manage supply chains better and reduce waste. With improved technology, countries can use their resources more effectively. Policy changes also influence these trends. Governments worldwide are setting new rules to support sustainable practices. Such policies encourage the growth of local industries and reduce reliance on imported goods. The global energy landscape may become more competitive and fair as a result. Recent research in these emerging trends point to a future where Ukraine's move has a far-reaching impact. Russia may face significant challenges if its key income from resources dries up. Meanwhile, Ukraine and its partners are working to secure their assets and boost domestic industries. These changes could alter global trade patterns and shift power balances in the energy market. The coming years may bring a new order in resource management that benefits nations ready to adapt to these shifts. New trends in technology and policy point to changes that may reshape the energy landscape and conflict dynamics. What do these shifts mean for both Ukraine and Russia, and how might the future be redefined? What this means for the world and beyond. Ukraine's decision to block access to its key resources has far-reaching effects. The move sends shockwaves through global energy markets. Countries that depend on these materials may now need to change their plans. Trade flows might shift as buyers look for new suppliers. This decision will affect prices for minerals such as lithium, rare earth elements, and uranium. When supply is cut off, demand may push prices higher. Markets all over the world take note of sudden changes like these. Global trade is now forced to adjust. Industries in Asia, Europe, and America will feel the impact. Manufacturers that use these raw materials in electronics and defense may face higher costs. This can lead to a ripple effect in many sectors. For instance, a rise in rare earth costs may boost prices for electric cars and smartphones. The disruption in supply chains can cause delays and higher expenses for companies that rely on a steady flow of materials. The political side of this decision is equally important. Ukraine's action sends a clear message to the world. It shows that countries in conflict can take steps to protect their assets. This may encourage other nations facing similar challenges to follow suit. If a nation stops exports to weaken an enemy's funding, it could set a new trend. Countries in unstable regions might use this strategy to gain the upper hand. Such moves could shift the balance of power in global resource politics. Economic stability is also at risk. The loss of revenue from resource exports could weaken a nation's economy. In Russia's case, a drop in income may force it to cut military spending. This in turn may slow down its war efforts. But the effects may also be felt by global investors. A sudden change in the supply of key materials can lead to uncertainty in financial markets. Investors may react by moving their money to safer assets. This could lead to fluctuations in stock markets and currencies. Moreover, long-term trends point to a shift in how the world uses energy. Renewable sources like wind and solar are gaining ground. Countries are reducing their reliance on traditional resources. Ukraine's decision may hasten that trend. It shows that control over resources is not guaranteed. New alliances could form as nations seek more stable and sustainable energy sources. Economic and political pressure may force nations to rethink long-term plans. In the coming years, these changes may lead to a more diverse global energy mix. The impact of Ukraine's decision could help drive innovations in resource management. New trade agreements might be made, and countries may invest in cleaner technology. All of these developments will shape the future of global energy politics. The world is watching as events unfold, and many ask what this means for global stability. Today, we saw Ukraine shut down key resources, shaking global markets and geopolitics. What's your take on Ukraine's bold move? Please share, comment below, and subscribe for more fascinating insights.